All right, here's your recording for the presidency, going over some simple powers, some qualifications, and the idea of a presidential's popularity and if it goes up or down. One of the main objectives here is to understand how a president can implement a policy agenda. So the things that a president has to do in order to get things passed, the different ways of going around that as well. First off, though, qualifications: he must be 35 years old, a natural born citizen, and a resident of the United States for at least 14 years. Some of the perks: looking at the job of the president, they make $400,000. They have a $50,000 expense account, travel expenses, they get a pension, which is equivalent to a cabinet position. A cabinet position is around $200,000, $205,000 a year, so they'll get that after they retire or leave the office of president annually. Get Air Force One, Camp David, a private residence. They get to live in the White House. They get Secret Service. Even when they're campaigning to become a president, they have the opportunity to use the Secret Service, and then they're staffed well, and they will also get Secret Service after if they need it. What does the Constitution say? So again, the first article of the Constitution is the legislative branch. The second article deals with the executive branch and the president. In Article 2, Section 1, it says they can serve a 4-year term. 2 terms begins only with the 22nd Amendment. So again, they could serve 4-year terms and as many as they wanted until the 22nd Amendment was adopted. It also creates a vice president. It has the Electoral College because the founders did not trust the people. So electors equal to senators plus representatives gets their Electoral College vote. You need 270 to win the election. Again, natural born citizen, 35 years old on the day of the inauguration, 14 years living in the United States. Cannot be raised for their pay while in office. Section 2, then, some of the roles. Commander-in-Chief, so of the armed forces, you can create a cabinet, and then that can be changed as well. But those cabinet positions, you appoint them. Grant reprieves and pardons, sign treaties with foreign nations, appoint different people like judges of the Supreme Court and other offices, and then fill recess appointment. A recess appointment here is filling an appointment while the Senate is on recess. So the recess appointment must be approved by the Senate by the end of the next session of Congress, or the position becomes vacant again. However, usually they will come back and approve it, or that person will just work until the Senate comes back or at the end of the next session of Congress. Another Section 3, from time to time, give Congress information of the State of the Union. This is where the State of the Union address occurs. The president kind of talks about what has happened over the last year, what they would like to get done in the next year. And then he shall take care to see the laws are executed faithfully, making sure the departments are running smoothly. Section 4 talks about the removal from office on impeachment. Again, the House can impeach the president for anything like treason, bribery, other high crimes and misdemeanors, where the Senate then hears that impeachment case and finds the president guilty or not guilty. One of the things the president can do, and a check on the legislative branch, is issue a veto. If you look at the number of vetoes over different presidencies through kind of first couple of years for Obama, the amount of vetoes, pocket vetoes where they just let them sit when Congress is out of session, vetoes overridden. So George Bush had 4 vetoes overridden, Obama had 0. Again, regular vetoes, often now they don't even get to the president when they know it's going to be vetoed. So Obama had 5, Bush had 11, Clinton had 36. So the legislative power. So a way that a president can work with bills and legislations and create policies, can actually sign a bill. So the Senate and House agrees to a bill, sends it to his desk, and they sign it. A veto message: a bill is dead. Here's why. Congress can override the veto with a 2/3 vote, but usually this is done just in the public forum or through advisors. They can ignore the bill, so 10 days later it can become law, or they can pocket veto. Congress will give a bill to the president, but then Congress adjourns for session, so they're not in session, and the bill can just let it sit on his or her desk, and it becomes dead. Again, if the president comes out and say, I will veto that piece of legislation, it might force the House, the Senate, all the legislative branch individuals to negotiate, bargain, try to get something passed that they would like. A line item veto is something done with governors that was declared unconstitutional for presidents in Clinton versus the city of New York. Again, a line item veto not mentioned in the Constitution, but a president would cancel part of a spending bill, so eliminate some portions of the bill, but allow the rest. That is no longer allowed. It's unconstitutional. The executive privilege. So this is a privilege that the president has, the privacy between the discussions that him and their advisors have. Why? They want to separate the branches, so they want to prevent some of the internal workings of the executive branch to be spilled over to the other branches. And again, political pressure, knowledge to the public. So, for example, some of the inner workings for the Osama bin Laden killing, that was very secretive, and that's part of the executive privilege. In U.S. versus Nixon, Nixon refused to hand over some conversations that were recorded, claiming that he had this executive privilege. However, the court ruled in favor of the United States, saying that the executive privilege does not block you against some of the functions of the court. So if there's a court case going on and they are looking at conversations that might lead to illegal activity, you cannot use the executive privilege. Some of the roles. So these are key roles that the president holds. First one, Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief. Again, often refers to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head of the military departments. They appoint some of these individuals. Chief of the party. President serves as the leader of the party and the most powerful voice. So if the president is of your political party, that is the chief of your party. Head of state, the face of the nation, goes to formal events. Then the chief legislator. So again, has the power to veto, can back Congress when they're trying to create a bill. Also has the idea of pocket veto that they can use as well. Some of the important vocabulary that we're going to talk about: honeymoon period, the first few months after the president is elected. They have a ton of popular support. They're going to use that to try to get things done. The first 100 days is always key, they talk about. The transition period, the time between the last presidential election and the inauguration. There's a couple months there where we know who won the election, but the president that just won the election doesn't get inaugurated till January. So this is the time period where you're going to appoint people. You're going to look at all the different cabinet positions and executive branch positions and try to find the right people to work for you. Lame duck period, that is that time from November to the presidential inauguration, when again the outgoing president doesn't really have much power because they're not going to really get things done because they know the new administration's coming in. And then clout, informal political power, always called throwing your weight around. You can use that as the president because you have a lot of power. We talk about soft power here. We talked about there's a different audience. So in some of our readings here, we're going to talk about presidential power and the modern president. Okay, so president's reputation is very important, especially in the media. There's three audiences that they kind of must represent. The first audience is Washington, D.C., so states that a president who appears cool, smart, the people that work in D.C., all the other Congress people, they can impress them. The second audience is your activists, your holders of office outside of D.C., state legislature branch people that are a part of the party that you really want to impress. They want money as well, so interest groups that are affiliated with this party or maybe for key issues. They want help raising this money so for state and local causes. Last audience, your public. You have to praise the public. You have to persuade them that you are an individual who is responsible enough. Everything that the president says will be held under scrutiny. So if we look at, in today's world, everything the president does, Twitter, public appearances, anything will be under scrutiny. Okay, not just by the press, but by just the regular public and foreign individuals as well. But the president must use the bully pulpit, again, to get the message across. The bully pulpit is using the position as president as a platform to speak and be listened to. They have the platform, all the media is going to follow them, and they're going to kind of record or report what that person says. When we look at presidential popularity, it goes up and down, but it will tend to slowly go down while they're in office. So presidents want to turn personal popularity into congressional support. If they support the president can support an issue, maybe Congress will then follow. Presidents have little impact on getting members of Congress elected. They try to campaign for them, but really has no effect. The coattail effect, mixed results, so sometimes kind of on your coattail on the way out, or researchers consider the impact of outgoing presidents' popularity when studying the coattail effect. I mean, Eisenhower was able to gain 22 seats for Republicans, while Obama, there was less seats, more of a popularity thing. Okay, so it depends on the Congress at that time. There's no real key statistic there. Other ways for presidential popularity, ways to get popular, reap some rewards and benefits, get a big bill passed. Support a bill, get it passed through Congress. Don't take a position, so sometimes in controversial measures, they let Congress fight it out, don't really take a position. Can appear successful if a few bills he likes are passed. But again, a lot of it's usually bottled up in Congress. Presidential popularity is hard to predict, can be influenced by things. For example, George W. Bush, 2001 approval rating was 57%, but disapproval rating was high at 25%. Again, that was after the election. But then when 9/11 happened, his popularity really went up. When Iraq happened, his popularity went down. Okay, decline in popularity, things that sometimes you can and cannot control. Most presidents decline in popularity except Eisenhower, Reagan, and Clinton. Truman had the Korean War, LBJ, Vietnam, Nixon, obviously Watergate. Carter, the economy went down, the Iran hostage situation, George H.W., the declining economy, and then George W., the war in Iraq. The honeymoon period, so right when they're sworn in, they're really popular. Others don't really accomplish much. Decaying reputation of the president and his party in midterms. So a lot of times midterm elections are important. The other party will take control of one of the houses or maybe both. Since 1934, in almost every off-year election, the president's party has lost seats in one or both of the houses. When developing programs, so look at their popularity. President has limited the amount of time he has to plan the program. Clinton, Obama with health care. Sometimes it gets messy. JFK with the Bay of Pigs. LBJ looking at Vietnam and some riots. Again, Watergate, the Mr. and Mrs. Clinton and the wrongdoing there, possibly losing an impeachment trial, and then the second Bush, Iraq turning into a mess. Again, sometimes you can't control. Presidents have some control. Obama had a stimulus plan put into effect because the economy didn't control the economy. The economy was failing when he entered office. So what was it on him? Was it his fault? Was it not? Was it Congress's fault? What if the economy is in the tank, right? And he just has to try to fix it, but he's still going to get the blame because he is the president, and that will definitely hurt your popularity. So again, popularity usually pretty high right after election. However, it will continue to decline throughout unless there's some key factor, a successful bill. Obama's popularity probably went up a little bit when the assassination of Osama bin Laden occurred. But again, the economy you can't control, maybe a failed war. Usually your popularity will go down.